All right, folks. I hope you're having an amazing day today. Today I want to take a look at Herbert West, Reanimator by H.P. Lovecraft. That was published in June 22, very early on in his career for you folks. It was written, it's divided into 6 chapters. I thought it would be fun for me to knock it out. And so forth. I had originally read it in real paper, which I'll link you to in the collections below, but I went back and also just read it last night online. So it's on for free because of how old it is. It's for free online. So I'll give you both if you're interested. Right, and such forth, and such. Now, because it was published so early, and my collection of it was in a collection of just horror stuff by Lovecraft, rather than in the early era of his life, rather than the second volume, which was more of his fantasy stuff, set in the Dreamlands, and then more inspired by Lord Dunsany's stuff, like his Gods of Pagana, or A Shop, and Go By Street, and that sort of thing. And then the Cthulhu mythos stuff near the end of his career, like the Call of Cthulhu and that sort of thing. So this was in his first era, inspired stuff by his power, but it's actually set in the Cthulhu mythos because it has places like Arkham and stuff like that. So it's actually in the Cthulhu mythos, and I had forgotten that. I just read it, going blissfully in the first one, and I had forgotten this actually was in the Cthulhu mythos for you when I back and read it for a second time last night. It took about an hour and a half of my time, second time for me to knock it out. Again, I read a lot of these things when I was a kid, back in college as a junior. That's when I picked up these 3-volume collections and really started to do a deeper dive into Lovecraft and the Cthulhu mythos, which I loved a lot. Which is a shared universe that started in the pulp era, where people he would start off by incorporating things from one story to another, like Doom that Came to Sarnath or the Hound with the Necronomicon or stuff like that. And then in the Call of Cthulhu, he puts it all together on a major way. That's where we get the name Cthulhu mythos comes from. And then he sort of puts it all together and so forth. And then he encourages other people to use his stuff. And then we'll bring in their stuff into his world too. So it's a shared universe from the very beginning. It's one of the earliest shared universes out there. So it's good stuff. I love it lots. And I'm a huge Cthulhu mythos fan. I probably read like 1,000 short stories in the Cthulhu mythos. Easy. Anyway, so this is too. I'd forgotten that because of where it's set. It's actually set in the Cthulhu mythos too, because of how early it is in his career when he's writing this in 22, and also the fact that I read it early on, not in the Cthulhu mythos collection for you folks. Again, this is Herbert West, Reanimator from 1922, and so forth. Again, it's divided into 6 chapters. Now, as a reminder, I don't do spoilers for my reviews. Sorry. What I will do instead is sort of give you the basic concept. So there's, again, 6 chapters. Each chapter will go over a time in the life between Herbert West and his friend that he met in college, and his confidant and his medical assistant too, in all the doctor stuff that they'll be doing. So basically, what they're going to be doing is, we'll find out early on that he believes in materialism, that there is no soul, that leaves our body when we leave, and so forth. He believes that for those reasons, we can reanimate the body. And he's at college at Arkham University as a medical student, and he is trying to get his faculty to support his use of recent deaths and so forth, like animals and so forth, to show his proof, and then humans too. So that's the fee. Then, and about page 3 or page 4, the head of the dean of the medical school will say no more experiments, no more using like cadavers and that sort of thing that are fresh. You gotta stop this. This isn't going to go anywhere, and so forth. And so he will obviously continue his experiments in secret, and that is the rest of the 6 chapters of this story, different parts of his life, of Herbert West's life for you folks. And this is definitely a fun little thing. I know that there actually is a movie, a horror movie starring Jeffrey Combs, if I believe I haven't seen it, that a lot of Cthulhu mythos fans really like too. and actually purchased a CD of Jeffrey Combs reading this short story and so forth, but I haven't listened to it yet. That's fun. And so forth. It's with my CDs. When I moved here, I can't find them. Sorry about that, so I just read it instead. It's fine though. Yeah, it's fun and such. So yeah, I know a lot of people like Jeffrey Combs' portrayal of Herbert West, Reanimator, in that film. But again, I haven't seen it. But you might have, and so forth, but no spoilers, and so forth. But yeah, this short story is great stuff. I love it lots. It doesn't have a lot of the great writing styles that he would have later on. Like, for example, at the beginning of each chapter, for about 3 or 4 paragraphs, he'll tell us what happened in the previous chapters. I know. It feels like he was serializing this in like a newspaper or a magazine, right? In each chapter, each week would summarize what had happened over the previous story. I'm like, I just read it. I knew that. So it feels like he's not using as great stuff for those reasons. And I'm not reading it in one chapter. And I don't think that it was published like that either. So if he reads a little weird, and it can be a little, I don't think his language is bad, but what the details and the descriptions and the things that he's using can be a little graphic at times, and such, if that makes sense for you folks. And a little prurient, less of the strong horror master that he'll develop into later on in his career with things like, Call of Cthulhu or At the Mountains of Madness, and that sort of a thing. Here, it's just pure horror, more shock value than thinking horror in some ways, and so forth. Although obviously the nature of life is a thinky thing, so you could argue that that's in there too. But I feel like this is more prurient, less of a think piece, or stronger developed one, and so forth. So I'm going to be giving, and also again, the 6 chapters. Each chapter starts off with what's happened in the previous ones. All the entire thing will summarize them for you, which wastes a lot of time too. So for those reasons, I'm giving it. I do like it. I think the ending's great, brilliant level lots. So I'm giving it like a 7 out of 10. It's dropping a couple of points for the appearance on another point because it keeps keeps repeating all the things. Everything starts at 10 and then it loses points based on things unless it stays at 10. So I'm giving it a 7 out of 10 for you folks. But if you think it's better, let me know. If you think it's worse, let me know. Happy to talk to you about it in the comments. Your opinion is just as valid as mine. As a reminder, I'm not a paid critic or a trained critic in college. I did not study literary criticisms and so forth. I'm just a fan, right? And so forth. So your opinion is just as valid as mine is. So did you read it? What did you think about it? And if you are a trained critic and your opinion is actually more valid than mine, so definitely love to hear that too. If you agree or disagree with my thoughts. And that sort of thing, the over-prurient nature and his repeating of the key thesis over and over and over again, what's happening, all those summaries and so forth, if you think that's there. All right, so there you are. Thanks. So if you like this video, why not hit the subscribe button, the like button, the bell icon to be notified of my videos of each week. I try to do 3 videos of older stuff each week and so forth, of older novellas, novels, short stories in this case, and then also some poems in there too, in order to keep myself current and of older things in the science fiction, horror like this, and in fantasy too. Love a lot. Other genres and so forth. So that's sort of the call. I also try to do video games and movies of older stuff and so forth. And I also try to do some serials. I also dedicate a Saturday to the serials that I call Serial Saturday, which is a forgotten storytelling method that people use back in the pulp era and this era too. In order to bring people back to the videos that we've sort of forgotten about, that method storytelling, and so forth. We've forgotten TV shows. We know TV shows and movies, but we've forgotten the serials. So I like to talk about those, and I've got reviews of those coming up too. Now, today coming in the mail is Renegade Swords 2. So this is I've gone back and done a bunch of Lovecraft stuff here and there, and so forth. This one will be published for a while, but this is going to be the last of my Lovecraft stuff before. Well, I've got tons more stuff that I haven't done reviews of, but this will be the last one, and so forth, just a heads up. All right, so there you are. If you like this video, why not? I've already said that. So as a reminder, this channel is named The Worst Thing About New Books. That's a quote by a French philosopher, Jacques Joubert, who said that the worst thing about them was that they kept us from reading the old ones, right? And this is definitely some older stuff. This guy, hugely impactful. We didn't read him as much. All right, and so forth. So he's definitely some fun stuff out there. And then I wanted to finally thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and investing it and watching my videos, right? Because we all have so many things that are happening in our lives, and we're pulled in so many different directions, right? So the fact that you spend this time with me, that's incredibly humbling. So I appreciate it so very, very, very much. And thanks again, and have an amazing day.